Don in London, hello. My video for March 22nd, all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour equally addictive around people, places, things, trying to be perfect and never so, trying to fit in desperately when I didn't really understand how to. But I did find out how to, and then because I found out how to, I felt life quite intolerable, so I started drinking, and it was for joyfulness, sadness, and in the end I was dependent upon it, an alcoholic, an addict, stuck in an illness, a malady, or an allergy, all those things, and I didn't know how to stop. And I was very lucky, my family kept me alive long enough to get help along the way from community, society, professionals, medical people, you name it. I tried every cure there might be, wanting to be cured of my illness, my strange inability to stop doing something, and self-harming in the worst possible way, coming to an ending on it all. And in the end I did stop. I had a moment of clarity. Life could get no worse, and if it could get no worse, it could only get better in some way or other. And that was my starting point. I asked for help, and it came in many forms, and in the end it came in the form of fellowship. Excuse me. It came in the form of fellowship, Alcoholics Anonymous, and it was unexpected. It wasn't what I wanted. It showed me that there was only one way to deal with my problem, and that was to get sober and stay sober. And if for somebody who'd been in the malady of drink for many years, and I say it's a malady because I was dependent on it to function in the end, the thought of giving up that dependency, I didn't even think about it. It was beyond thinking, beyond feeling. And then this fellowship turned up in my life, or I found it courtesy of my sister, and I was not very good at it, this thing called fellowship, because I'd become a very isolated individual, frightened of everything, fearful of life, putting on a brave face, angry beyond belief, self-loathing, you name it, all those things going on for me. And then this fellowship, a bunch of people who stay sober one day at a time. And I realised quite early on that every single person in the fellowship was unique and authentic, following their own life path, the way they could, based on today. And that life path is always unique and authentic. So I can only speak about my path in sobriety. But if I were to cut out the mainstay and say nothing about it, nothing about AA, the fellowship, I would be deluding you and myself. So AA saved my life, because what I saw is what I got. I went to meetings, found people who had similar outlooks, most people in fellowship, a desire to be sober, and beyond that, not much in common to start with, except trying to be sober. So I did a lot of complaining, and eventually came to the conclusion that life could work if only I tried out the 12 steps of the program to live life. So I'll share about the steps of AA and how it works in my life, and some of the literature of AA, simply to illustrate that it can work. Mine is just one story, one voice, so it's the very many voices within the fellowship which makes it possible for me to be sober today. So I lean on fellowship, everybody, and share about what's going on. So that's what I do here too. It doesn't make me a representative of AA. I can never be that. So what is it that keeps me sober one day at a time? The fellowship. This is the preamble shared at every meeting, and then I'll cover a couple of readings from the literature for when I cannot get to a meeting, or they're just out of reach. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And it's an emotional, spiritual program. Emotional, that is, understanding my feelings, how big they may be today in one direction or another, or how small they may be. Do my feelings fit the experience I'm having? Or am I over the top or underplaying what is happening? Emotional. And the spiritual experience is living reality, coping with reality on a day-to-day basis. My needs met, my wants forgotten. And it took me a long time to get there. I'm very grateful to find, and I was very grateful to find out a lot of people got there earlier than me. A lot of young people do. Because maybe they didn't indulge for so long and then have so much longer to go in recovery to get the message. Anyway, this book, Daily Reflections, is really helpful. It covers one step a month of the 12-step program, 12 steps, 12 months. And March is about step 3, letting go and letting good things happen, or let go, let God. Let go and let life in, the wisdom of others. And it says for March 22nd, no more struggle. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. And that comes from AA's big book, page 84, I think 3rd edition. When AA found me, I thought I was in for a struggle, and that AA might provide the strength I needed to beat alcohol. Victorious in that fight, who knows what other battles I could win? I would need to be strong, though. All my previous experience with life proved that. Today I do not have to struggle or exert my will. If I take those 12 steps and let my higher power do the real work, my alcohol problem disappears all by itself. My living problems also cease to be struggles. I just have to ask whether acceptance or change is required. Do I need to accept how things are, or is change better? It is not my will, but His that needs doing. And when I think about that, it is not my will, it's not my self-will, I will make it my way anymore. What is the highway of life, and how may I travel along it? It's far easier, because then we get the freedom of choices. And one of the things I never knew in life, and it never occurred to me until I heard a very senior person in a big organisation, when asked, would you like to do that? They just said, I don't feel like it. And everybody was surprised. What, you just don't feel like it? Actually, saying no is absolutely important. We say no to booze, and then we can say no to other things as well, which are harmful to us, or simply we don't feel like it. If it's not a need, and it's more of a want, either from another person trying to exert some will over us, we can say, I don't feel like that. It's a good idea for you, but it's not a good idea for me. So if somebody asked me, would you like to go on an all-inclusive holiday to the Caribbean, to a place where people just drink all day long, or 24/7, I'd say, well, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that, so the answer is no. And they may be surprised, because past experience would tell them that I did that and stayed there for a year. We do mad things in the malady, the problem of drink, and then we find the solution is, actually, I don't feel like that. Or how do I feel right now? I feel right-sized with the world. That is, I can engage in whatever is right for me. And often I need to ask the question, either to conscience, my good conscience, the inner voice inside, which says, is this a good idea? Or is this an imposition? Or is this something I need to do because it's part of unity, service and recovery? Choices are open to me today. And I was looking in As Bill Sees It, another one from the AA Fellowship, about the higher power. And Bill Wilson, co-founder, it's a page, these are all daily reflections book, 1 page a day, just simply a little bit of background or something to reflect upon before we charge into the world with all the things we feel we must do. So page 78, it says clearing a channel. During the day we can pause where situations must be met and decisions made, and renew the simple request, thy will, not mine, be done. If at these points our emotional disturbance happens to be great, we will more surely keep our balance, provided we remember and repeat to ourselves a particular prayer or phrase that has appealed to us in our reading or meditation. Just saying it over and over will often enable us to clear a channel choked up with anger, fear, frustration or misunderstanding, and permit us to return to the surest help of all, our search for God's will, or good conscience, depending on your belief system, not your own in the moment of stress. And when I look at it, and we look at the world as it is, we are all very capable of dragging in all the arguments and resentments that we've had about life into one situation which is happening now. It's the here we go again syndrome. And in recovery, what we find is if we are living one day at a time, and there are things we must do and need do, and it's getting difficult, it's better to say, on this highway of life, it's everyone that I'm interconnected with. It's not just about me. And if I'm finding it difficult, why not ask, is anybody else finding this difficult? And start a dialogue and see what can happen. So rather than battle, use self-will, stiff upper lip and all that. To, I don't feel right about this, what can I do? Or do we feel right about doing this? So what shall we do? It's about getting input, inclusion, so that life works, rather than fighting it all the time. The battle into recovery actually gets to be, life is recovery, so there are no battles to fight. It's freedom of choice, respectful of other people's outlooks and opinions, but also knowing that it's okay to have our own outlooks and opinions and beliefs, that we are unique and authentic people with our own voice. And as long as we don't become attached in some way to some person, place or thing, where we create codependence, where either we are trying to exert power over, or we find power is being exerted over us, then we start to understand what is possible. So if beyond anything, that serenity prayer, which I always share at the end of these videos, helps me immensely, just to stay in the moment where I can accept or change something. So it's acceptance of life on life's terms, or it's acceptance and then thinking and feeling, is there more to this? Can we change it? So the only thing I can not often change is my attitude and behaviour. Trying to change anybody else's attitude and behaviour is pretty much impossible unless we're all like-minded. And that is not so in fellowship, and it's not so in life. So the serenity prayer to God, or to good conscience, the higher power of your understanding, which for me is truth, love and wisdom. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, that is, accept what I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, for me, is in the moment and always just for today. Recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour, or substance and behaviour. So I've realised in life that one can be addicted to both. So my substance, alcohol, my behaviour, equally addictive, work, relationships, collecting, trying to fill an empty gap inside me, and never knowing that empty gap inside me was fulfilling with good things, rather than trying to fix the way I felt, or to try and catch some whisper or wisp of spiritual reality. So for me these days, I learn that sobriety comes packaged one day at a time, or less, depending on what's going on, and that anything can be a trigger to set off old behaviour of trying to fix something, a situation, a place, a person, a thing. So I try not to fix anything, but just live and endeavour as life offers me, and to be open to the choices that are open to everybody based on what is real life. So what helps me keep sober one day at a time, and for a few days, well, quite a long time actually, in a lifetime, is family, friends, community. There's a lot of noise this morning in the background. Friends, family and community helped me find a place to find a moment of clarity, and that moment of clarity led to understanding I needed to let the world back in, stop isolating and be a part of life again. And to do that I needed to stop drinking and trying to fix myself. So what helped most was a fellowship, and that fellowship is AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And I don't speak for the fellowship and never can, never will. One of the principles is anonymity, but from my very early days I was not anonymous in any shape or form in my community or anywhere else particularly, because it was obvious what was wrong with me. And I guess for me, open, honest and willing are some of the principles. Anonymous didn't really seem to make much difference to me, except in one respect, and that was anonymity is sanctuary to find the truth of who we are. So whether we go to a doctor or a counsellor, or we go to a psychiatrist, or we go to fellowship, we are offered anonymity. That is what we share, who we see, what we hear, and we just do not share it outside fellowship. We don't talk about other people, but we can talk about where we were and what it means to us. So this is why I share experience, strength and hope of my recovery. And it would be a great big ego thing not to include AA, the fellowship, as part of my story of recovery, because it is in fact the backbone. I learn from others who are in recovery one day at a time. And if I can't get to a meeting, and I haven't been able to get to a meeting for over 2 weeks now, well, no, I haven't actually, without causing damage physically to my foot, which has got some displaced fractures in it. So I guess I could have put everything aside and put my physical condition aside as well in order to improve my spiritual and emotional condition. But I suspect there is a balance in there between isolation, which is not so helpful, and solitary endeavour, which is quite helpful. So I'm on the cusp, if you like. I would benefit from going to a meeting, without a doubt. So why go to AA? Well, there is a statement of intent which is shared, and it goes like this. It's called the AA Preamble, shared at every meeting. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And a friend of mine came for coffee yesterday and we had a little discussion about anonymity. And it is strange because there are no rules in AA. There are absolutely no rules. There are principles and suggestions to live life. And in amongst that is anonymity. Now, I can break my anonymity, which is to break anonymity. It's not a rule. Anonymity is a suggestion so that we don't get big-sized and think that we know it all. And one thing I've learned in recovery is I know nothing most of the time, and I need to learn it on a daily basis. So I can break my anonymity, but I don't break the rule because there isn't one. And what I knew from the start, or pretty much when it was being founded as a fellowship, if it had any rules, any alcoholic worth their salt wouldn't go, because we don't respond to rules. We respond to experience, strength and hope, sharing, inclusion and being a part of, with principles of living and understandings around sanctuary to find the truth of now. So there are no rule-breaking situations in AA, but I can break my anonymity, and it may sound like borderline something or other, but if you started, or we started, or I started to impose rules on people about how they get sober, they wouldn't, because we are powerless over people, places and things, which is step one. and that's enough of that. So I understand that anonymity is precious, and it's very precious, and it's a sanctuary. And without it, I don't know that I would have got sober. But if you made it a rule, how many people would actually respond to rules when they're driven mad by drink? And the answer is self-will, run riot, self-obsession, ego, fear, putting on a brave face. All those characteristics which come out when we're stuck and need fixing wouldn't have helped. So for me, I share literature here from the Daily Reflections, which is all about the 12 steps, this book. And I think I covered this the other day. It talks about no more struggle for March 22nd. And we ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. When AA found me, I thought I was in for a struggle, and that AA might provide the strength I needed to beat alcohol. Victorious in that fight, who knows what other battles I could win. I would need to be strong, though. All my previous experience with life proved that. Today I do not have to struggle or exert my will. I don't have to exert my will. If I take those 12 steps and let my higher power do the real work, and for me my higher power is truth, wisdom, works through people, and is love. To let my higher power do the real work, my alcohol problem disappears all by itself. My living problems also cease to be struggles. I just have to ask whether acceptance or change is required. It is not my will, but his, that needs doing. And the gift in there for me, it talks about his will, or God's will. And for me, it took me a long time to understand what God may be in my life. And I came from a background where God was not exactly the best way forward. So when I came to my own understanding of what God could be in my life, it fits in with a lot of what other people say. God is truth, God is love, and God works through people. So it's very realistic, and it doesn't require a great big leap into the dark, which is what I thought it would mean, that I had to give up everything. Indeed I did. I stopped trying to be willful, self-obsessed and riotous, and found that I didn't need to fix anything anymore, or struggle, or battle, just live life. So for me, what helps me when life is difficult, or not quite as understandable as I would wish, I use the serenity prayer, or share it with myself in my head, or express it out loud. And it's to serenity and God, and it goes like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference for me is just for today, without any rules. And happy Mother's Day to those of you who are, and for those who aren't, we remember our mothers. Mine's still alive and kicking, not too far away, in her 79th year, 78, gosh. Yeah, takes me back, that, thinking that. Still got all her mental marbles, fortunately, so I'm very grateful for that, and she's a very wise old bird, and I mean that with great respect. So I'll be seeing my mum later for lunch, and my sister, and my brother, his wife, and my 3 nephews, and that's being part of family. And the reason why I do these videos is because I'm in recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. And if I weren't in recovery from my addictions to substance or behaviour, my substance, alcohol, my behaviour, any ism or olic you can think of, workaholic, relationshipaholic, you name it, I could be an ick. Or just put a D on the beginning and you've got the right answer. So I'm a part of still. And if I hadn't found the fellowship of AA, I guess I would be dead by now, because I was a self-obsessed, compulsive drinker in the end, drinking 24/7, 7 days a week, all the time. And I didn't know how to stop, because once in the allergy of the malady, of the ism of addiction, addiction takes us over, and it's almost like no amount of self-will will ever be enough, because self-will will break down, and often the breakdown for somebody trying to recover or be in recovery from addiction is a return to that addiction in the first place, a relapse, or a slip as it's called. And it's very easy, and the reason why I go to so many meetings of my fellowship, Alcoholics Anonymous, is to try and ensure that I keep on track one day at a time and don't fall back into the malady or relapse emotionally, spiritually or physically, and then become dependent on something which I cannot control. And it's about powerlessness. The first step of the 12-step action program of AA suggests we are powerless over alcohol, and when drinking, life is unmanageable. And I need those reminders on a daily basis, and to be helping others if I can, either by doing these videos or just by my presence or by my words of wisdom, some of which can be helpful and some can be discarded because they don't apply. So yes, I'm here on YouTube sharing my experience, strength and hope of one day in recovery, just one day each day. And what helps me most, as I say, is going to AA meetings. And at AA meetings there is a preamble shared to make sure we're in the right place with the right information and the right understanding, and it goes like this. AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And that reads a bit altruistic, and I think we all have a genuine desire to keep well and to help other people to the best of our abilities on any given day. And the problem with the fellowship is we're only as good as we turn up on a daily basis. So some of us are okay, some of us are very okay, and some of us are not too well at all, depending on what is going on in our lives. And for me, I've had 3 big changes, really, if not more. Loss of a friend, loss of a partner, not in the terms of death, but an ending of a relationship, which I shall grieve too, because you don't stop loving a person even if you cannot be with them. Or you can stop loving them and you can still be with them. I don't know, all those things. But unfortunately, a friend died. My partner, she and I, we split up. And I'm going through regime change to do with type 1 diabetes and clinical depression. So that's 4 things. And I've got a cold, and it goes on, doesn't it? And the gift is, just for today, I need to keep my head above water and be able to keep on doing what I do, just staying sober one day at a time. And it's Sunday morning, and I feel very tired, but and why? Because I think my mind has had a lot of difficulty shutting down. So lots of sleep deprivation and a lot of pain associated with diabetic neuropathy as well. So it didn't deter me from getting to the 2 meetings, and I was able to get out and take some photos up and down the King's Road on a very sunny day. So they're on a link to the right of this video if you're watching it on YouTube. What helps me most also is books like this one, Daily Reflections. And the daily reflections are 1 page a day, and each month it relates to one of the 12 steps of action in the 12-step program for individuals in the fellowship of AA. So 12 steps of action to do with attitude and behaviour, and 1 per month in this book. So step 3, March, reads: made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. And it's not whether I believe in God. Well, I think on some days I believe in God, on other days I feel like I'm an atheist, on other days I feel like I'm an agnostic, and I'm absolutely susceptible to my life experiences. So life experiences can make us feel or understand the world differently on different days. So I don't want to be held down to I believe in God, or I'm an agnostic, or I'm an atheist. I think the real answer is that on any given day, if we can get to a place of good conscience, which is the access point maybe to Gandhi's understanding that I feel is right for me. God is truth, God is love, God works through other people. And that's also supported by the reading and the daily reflections today. So for March 22nd it says, no more struggle. And it says, And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. That comes from AA's big book, page 84. I think the 4th or 3rd edition. When AA found me, I thought I was in for a struggle, and that AA might provide the strength I needed to beat alcohol. Victorious in that fight, who knows what other battles I could win. I would need to be strong, though. All my previous experience with life proved that. Today I do not have to struggle or exert my will. If I take those 12 steps and let my higher power do the real work, my alcohol problem disappears all by itself. My living problems also cease to be struggles. I just have to ask whether acceptance or change is required. It is not my will, but his that needs doing. And really, for me, on a sort of atheistic, agnostic day, it's to do with good conscience. And when it's a good day where I feel that I'm getting good messages from others, experience, strength and hope and wisdom through other people, then God is that connection. And it's to an appeal to our good conscience or a higher power which can keep us stop trying to use our willpower, because willpower will always fail. It's bound to. We're human, and we make progress, and we're not ever perfect. And the other book I use, I'm running out of time, As Bill Sees It, 1 page a day, just done linearly. It says here, Seeking Guidance, on page 55. Man is supposed to think and act. He wasn't made in God's image to be an automaton. My own formula is along this line runs as follows. First, think through every situation, pro and con, praying meanwhile that I will not be influenced by ego considerations. Affirm that I would like to do God's will, or good conscience. Then, having turned the problem over in this fashion, and getting no conclusive or compelling answer, I wait for further guidance, which may come into the mind directly, or through other people, or through circumstances, people or life experience. If I feel I can't wait, and still get no definite indication, I repeat the first measure several times, try to pick out the best course, and then proceed to act. I know if I am wrong, the heavens won't fall. A lesson will be learned in any case, and that is because we keep on making mistakes. And the one mistake we don't need to keep on making over and over again is going back and relapsing or slipping and going back to drink. So the gift really is we have a better understanding of where we can get to, and the serenity prayer sums it up when it says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that's just for today.